All right, today we're going to do Module 4, Lesson 18, and our lesson objective for today is you're going to be able to relate decimal and fraction multiplication. Now, we've already touched on this some, okay, because I think it's best to relate decimals and fractions, and you get to pick which strategy is best for you, okay? So let's go ahead and get started. Now, the standard we're looking at is add, subtract, multiply, and divide decimals. That's MBT 2.7. Now, we've done a lot of adding, subtracting, and we've done some multiplying and dividing of decimals. But now the multiplication of decimals is being a little bit easier because we're going to relate it to fractions. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Now let's take this first problem, 3 2/10 and 2 1/10. And I'm going to rewrite these as fractions. Because instead of saying 3 2/10, I'm going to say 32 tenths. And I'm multiplying that by, instead of 2 1/10, it's 21 tenths. Now, when I multiply these out, now I've got to go 32 times 21. And we're going to end up with 32 and 4 and 6, which is going to be 672. So we're going to end up with 672, and we're going to multiply 10 times 10 to get 100s. Now, if you rewrite this, this is actually 672 divided by 100. Now, if you remember previously, if I divide by 100, the decimal place is going to move 2 place values. So instead of 672, I'm going to end up with 6 and 72 hundredths. Okay. Now, there is a second strategy. We're just using the decimals. So let's see. If I had 3 2/10, and I want to multiply that by 2 1/10. Now, the first thing, if I wanted to get rid of the decimals, I could multiply this number by 10, and I would get 32. I multiply this number by 10, I would get 21. So basically, I've removed the decimal. Now, when I multiply it out, just like we did before, I'm going to end up with 32 and 640, and that'd be 672. But you remember, I multiplied by 10 up here to get rid of the decimals. And since I've multiplied by 10 twice, now I need to put a decimal back in. So I have to divide. So I have to divide, but not divide by 10. I have to divide by 100. 10 times 10. And now we're right back up the top again, like we did right here. And 672 divided by 100 would be 6 and 72 hundredths. Now, the next time I do this one right here, I'm going to kind of shorten it a little bit now that we understand what we're doing. Okay, I'm going to shorten it a little bit. Now let's do the fraction way first. This here would be 32 tenths, and I'm going to multiply that by 44 tenths. And I'm going to multiply this. So I'm going to go 32, and I'm going to go 44 because I only have to do it one time now. Because 4 times 2 is 8, 4 times 3 is 12. Put my place value, and I know I'm going to have the exact same digits again. So now that's 8, 10, 14, 1,408. So this equals 1,408 divide over, and this is 10 times 10 is 100. So we know this is 1408 divided by 100, and when we divide by 100, we're going to have the decimal move 2 places, so we'll end up with 14.08. So that's what this one would equal, 14 and 8 hundredths. Now let's see, now that we understand how we took out the decimal, put it back in, let's see if we can shorten it a little bit. How about if I had 30.2, and I'm going to multiply that by 0.44, okay? Oh, I made a mistake up here. This is not 44 tenths, is it? This was 44 hundredths. That means this here would actually be thousandths, which means our decimal would actually have to be one place further, right here. So, in all actuality, our answer is 1 and 408 thousandths. Now, let's continue down here. I'm going to multiply this out again. That 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 3 is 12. place my 0, and I know 4 times 2 is 8 again, and 4 times 3 is 12. And now I have 8, 10, still 1408. But now, if you look here, there is one decimal place that's moved here. And over here, I've got 2 decimals that I took out or ignored. Okay, so that means down below, I need to put back in 3 decimal places. So I'm starting right here at the end. I'm right here at the end. I'm going 1, 2, 3. So now we got our 1.408. So basically, I ignored the decimals. I multiplied it like whole numbers, and then I counted how many place values I had to put back in, because that would be like multiplying in order to remove the decimal. Now let's try another one. This would be 32 tenths times 421 hundredths. Now I'm going to come down here. I got 421 times 32, and that's going to be 248. Put our place value. That's 3, 6, and 12, and I have 2, 7, 14, carry 1, 3, 1. Now, so I've actually got 13,472, and 100 times 10 is thousands. Now we know that 13472 divided by 1,000 is going to move the decimal place 3 places to the left. So we're going to end up with 13.472 as our answer. Now I'm going to skip. Now that we've done the fractions, I'm going to start going back to the decimals, okay? And I'll keep bouncing between each strategy until you see which one you really like. Let's come to this one. Now, last time we ended up with the fractions, so let's start with the decimals this time. I've got 2.6. This one I have 0.4, and I'll multiply it out. 4 times 6 is 24. 4 times 2 is 8, and 2 is 10. Now I have 1 decimal in the S factor. I have 1 decimal place in this factor, so I'm going to have to put 2 in, so I know my answer is going to have to be right there. Now, to prove that, we could try it a second way, which is 26 tenths times 4 tenths, which we have 26 times 4. That's going to be 24. That'd be 8, 10, 104. So that's 104 100ths. And we know 104 divided by 100 is going to equal 1.04. So it checked out. Let's go to the next one. Let's do the fraction first this time. 31 tenths times 14 tenths is going to equal, let's say 31 times 14 is 412, 013. That's 434. So this is going to equal 434, and 10 times 10 is 100. Now I know this is 434 divided by 100, so it's going to shift place value 2 to the left, and I'll end up with 4.34. Now, let's go. You notice with the fraction ways, I still ended up having to multiply down here, didn't I? So maybe it's just more efficient to go ahead and use this strategy. Now notice I lined up in decimals. I really didn't have to do that in multiplication. Okay, it just happened. Now 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 3 is 12. 0, 1, 3. We got 4. That's a 12. I'm sorry. 3, 4. And I have 1 decimal place here, 1 here for a total of 2. I got to put back in, and our answer is 4 and 34 hundredths. Our last one. Now let's just do the decimal this time. 0.31, and we're going to multiply this times 1 and 4 tenths. Well, let's see. Notice the one on top is a lot smaller, but it doesn't matter which one I put up there, because 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 3 is 12. And I don't need to do the next one because 4 times 0 is 0. Okay. Now I'm going to come up with my placeholder. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 3 is 3. Once again, I have 1 times 0 is 0, and I'm not going to put it out here. And now we got 4, 3, 4. And if you see, we have two placeholders here, and we got 1 here, so I need to put a total of 3 back in. So our answer becomes 434 thousandths. All right, here's our last one. So for the last one, let's do both of them again. Here's 42 tenths times 12 100ths. So I'm going to come over here, 42 times 12, and that's going to be 40, 4 and an 8, a 0, 2, and 4, and that's 4, 10, carry 1, and 5. So we have 504, and 10 times 100 is 1,000. So we have 504 thousandths. Now, another way we can do this is we know when we're dividing, it's going to move 3, but we also know the 4 is in the thousandths place. So use my place value knowledge. I know the 4 is in the thousandths place. Okay, I made it pretty simple. Now let's do the last one over here. 4.2 times 0.12. And 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 4 is 8. But our placeholder, 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 4 is 4. We add them up. 4, 10, and 1 is 5. And we can see we have 1 decimal place on this factor and 2 on that one for a total of 3. So starting all the way over here on our right hand side, we're going to count 1, 2, 3, and we know 0.504 or 504 thousandths. All right, so as you can see, multiplying decimals are a lot like just multiplying fractions. Okay, you have 2 different strategies you could use. The one you use is the one that is best for you. Okay, all right, we'll see you in class.